Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 9 Part 20 based on novel. So let's start. The low but clear sounds of a storm continuously resounded within the 7th story of the chaotic tower. Waves of the golden ocean-like desolation chi formed one after another, a sight that was extremely shocking. There were 2 empty zones present within this golden sea. Within them were a man and a talisman. They were like 2 bottomless pits, as they greedily devoured the surging desolation chi around them at a crazily rapid speed. With this absorption, Lin Dong's body was now a glittering gold color, while golden light flowed on his skin. From a distance, he appeared like a ferocious King Kong from ancient times. His entire body gave off a feeling of indescribable and terrifying power. Moreover, a dragon roar faintly echoed from under the golden light. As his golden skin wiggled, dark green dragon tattoos were vaguely visible. Each time the dragon tattoos wiggled, an extremely powerful strength would erupt. Under this power, even the air was shaken until it emitted a deep explosion sound. Crack! Golden light surged, as the clothes on Lin Dong's body suddenly split apart. A naked golden light flashed as it appeared. There were lines all over his body, and at a glance, he appeared just like a metallic figure. Although his metallic muscles were not overly grotesque, everyone could tell that there was definitely an explosive, frightening strength contained under this seemingly perfect body. Most importantly, there were now 2 dark green dragon tattoos on Lin Dong's chest and back. His green heaven materialized dragon skill had actually reached 8 dragon tattoos within this short period of half a month. This kind of strength was at least twice as strong as before. It seemed that the desolation chi within this chaotic tower did possess an extremely astonishing and miraculous effect towards the tempering of his physical body. Moreover, while Lin Dong's body was growing increasingly stronger under the tempering of the desolation chi, the yuan power within his body was also gradually condensing. The problem of his yuan power becoming rather superficial, due to his sudden rise in strength after consuming the core spiritual birth serum, had been perfectly resolved at this moment. This saved Lin Dong a great amount of trouble. His training had proceeded a step at a time over the past few years, hence, his foundation was as solid as a rock. If his most recent advancement ended up causing his foundation to become unstable, he would really end up losing more than he had gained. Thus, Lin Dong had truly benefited greatly from this entry into the chaotic tower. The previous bitter battle was indeed worthwhile. While Lin Dong was training, the mysterious stone talisman nearby had also experienced quite a great amount of change. Some cryptic and mysterious patterns of light had appeared on its rough and ancient surface. Moreover, it did not look as dim as it had in the past. Instead, it now had a healthy glossiness. One could tell that it was gradually recovering from the damage it had once received. Lin Dong felt a great anticipation and curiosity as to just what kind of abilities would this mysterious stone talisman possess after being repaired. Another half a month quietly passed amidst this anticipation. After half a month, there were now a total of 10 green dragon light tattoos on Lin Dong's body. These 10 dragon tattoos extended on his body, appearing like 10 huge dragons that were stretching their enormous bodies. Wave after wave of frightening power spread outwards, and it seemed as though even space itself would be blasted apart by a single punch. The golden light flickering on Lin Dong's body gradually weakened at this moment, while the black hole rotating above his head quietly disappeared. Finally, it turned into a ray of black light that rushed into his head. Lin Dong's eyes, which had been tightly shut for a month, slowly opened after the devouring ancestral symbol returned to his body. 2 dazzling golden lights quickly rushed out the moment his eyes were opened, and directly tore through the desolation chi in front of him. The golden light swiftly faded from within Lin Dong's eyes. A moment later, they once again turned pitch black. Lin Dong's body also completely recovered to normal at this moment. Roar! Lin Dong extended both of his arms, as his body gently moved. After which, he heard a deep dragon roar being emitted from within his body. That dragon roar had emerged due to the rubbing of his muscles and bones, and as it echoed, a feeling of power also swiftly surged. Such power! Lin Dong clenched both of his hands tightly, feeling the power within his body, and could not help but grin. This short 1 month of training had a miraculous effect. Not only did he resolve the superficial yuan power problem due to the sudden rise in his strength, he had also made progress in the green heaven materialized dragon skill. Given Lin Dong's current strength, if he was to fight with Sheng Tu again, he had the confidence to blast the latter away with a single strike. 10 green dragon light tattoos. This strength was twice as powerful as before. Only now have I truly reached the initial profound life stage. Lin Dong stood up. The yuan power within his body gave off a feeling of solidness once again. A thought passed through his mind, and yuan power arrived in an instant, while his hand clenched into a fist and a punch was thrown forward. Bang! The air in front of him appeared to have been compressed to the limit. Circular arcs of air that were visible to the naked eye formed under Lin Dong's fist, while the desolation chi to his front was blasted apart by this punch. Lin Dong finally withdrew his fist in a satisfied manner after a brief test. After which, his eyes looked towards a certain spot nearby. The mysterious stone talisman was still emitting a suction force, as it continuously absorbed the desolation chi that permeated the place. Those ancient symbols on its surface became increasingly obvious in the face of this absorption. What a glutton, Lin Dong laughed inwardly, while feeling a little envious. Although the desolation chi was greatly beneficial, there was a limit at every stage. With Lin Dong's current strength, his physical body could only form 10 green dragon-like tattoos. Hence, their trying to absorb the desolation chi would have little effect for the time being. Lin Dong observed the stone talisman for a moment. He began to relax after seeing that nothing seemed to be out of place. Subsequently, his eyes were thrown towards the interior of this 7th story. This place still appeared very spacious, and there was nothing noticeable other than the golden desolation chi that filled it. Hence, Lin Dong's eyes involuntarily looked towards the path that led to the 8th story after looking around. Instead of calling it a path, it was more akin to a golden membrane of light. Behind the membrane of light was the 8th story of the chaotic tower that no one had ever entered before. Lin Dong stood under the golden light membrane, and lifted his head to look at it. He could faintly sense a kind of ancient fluctuation being emitted. Under this fluctuation, Lin Dong discovered that even his spirit trembled a little. I wonder what is hidden within this 8th story. Lin Dong frowned slightly, as he muttered to himself. Although this fluctuation was extremely faint, it was rather terrifying. Lin Dong stared at the light membrane when his eyes suddenly focused. He had discovered that there seemed to be an extremely tiny crack at the edge of the light membrane. Lin Dong stared at the crack, as his gaze faintly flickered, but he ultimately did not approach it. He had always maintained a mentality of keeping a distance from such mysterious and unknown things. However, a purplish golden light flickered at the crack just as Lin Dong was preparing to withdraw. Finally, a purplish golden light, that was as thick as a thumb, suddenly rushed out and shot straight towards Lin Dong. Lin Dong had kept vigilant as he observed at the crack. Hence, he had detected it the moment that purplish gold light appeared. Immediately, his expression changed drastically. A punch was thrown, as his body hurriedly pulled back. An extremely terrifying force ruthlessly smashed towards the purplish gold light. Bang! However, this force that could easily injure a peak initial profound life stage expert was shattered upon meeting this purplish gold light. Subsequently, that purplish gold light charged towards Lin Dong under his horrified gaze. Soon after, the tail of the light flashed, and it barbarically charged into his body through his forehead. Lin Dong's body suddenly froze in a strange manner the moment this purplish gold light charged into his body. Lin Dong's body stiffened the moment that purplish gold light charged into his body. After which, his face immediately turned purple, as countless purplish gold rays of light surged out from within his eyes. Damn it! A furious curse escaped from the gaps between Lin Dong's teeth with some difficulty while his body gently trembled. At this moment, the interior of his body had been turned upside down by the purplish gold light which had barged in. This purplish golden light was like an ancient dragon from ancient times. It went on a rampage within Lin Dong's body in an extremely barbaric manner. Despite how powerful his physical body currently was, waves of intense pain could still be felt. Lin Dong inhaled deeply twice, as he tried his best to suppress the intense pain within his body. After which, he swiftly sat down, and his mind sunk deep within his body. Subsequently, Yuan power frantically unfurled to surround the purplish gold light that had charged in his body. Bang bang bang. However, his actions had little effect. That purplish gold light's overbearing manner had reached a shocking extent. Any obstruction was forcefully smashed apart by it, as it continued to rage unceasingly within Lin Dong's channels. Bastard! Lin Dong cursed furiously. With a thought, the devouring ancestral symbol turned into a monstrous black light as it swept forth. At the same time, the ancient universe formation suspended above his dantian. When these two great divine objects took action, that purplish gold light seemed to have also sensed that it was in danger. Its previous destructive tendencies were slightly restrained. However, it was clear that it was unwilling to simply leave things in this state. Light flashed and continued to travel randomly within Lin Dong's limbs and bones. Let's see where you can run to. Lin Dong's mind followed closely behind this purplish gold light. With an icy laugh, the devouring ancestral symbol turned into a black hole and appeared in front of the purplish gold light. After which, the ancient universe formation swept over from behind. It turned into a light curtain that quickly covered the purplish gold light. Bang bang. The purplish gold light ruthlessly smashed into the light curtain formed by the ancient universe formation. However, it did not achieve the same effect it did earlier. Instead, it was bounced back. I'm interested to find out exactly what you are. To actually dare to do as you please in my body. Lin Dong's face was somewhat vicious. If it was not for the devouring ancestral symbol and the ancient universe formation guarding his body, it was likely that he would be tortured by this purplish gold light, suffering a fate worse than death in the process. Lin Dong's mind was locked onto the purplish gold light. After careful observation, he finally discovered that this purplish gold light seemed to be a thumb-sized, purplish gold skin. Lin Dong's mind was a little stunned as he gazed at this purplish gold skin, and was unable to recover for a time. The thing that had escaped from the crack in the light membrane was actually a piece of skin. Moreover, this skin had actually come running into his body. This situation caused Lin Dong to be unable to laugh nor cry. However, he gradually regained his calm. This purplish gold skin might only be the size of a fingernail, but it contained an extremely ancient fluctuation. This fluctuation was not unfamiliar. It was also desolation chi. However, the desolation chi contained in this purplish gold skin had a fundamental difference in quality compared to the desolation chi in the seventh story. I will try refining it. This thought flashed within Lin Dong's mind. The purplish gold skin contained extremely pure desolation chi. If it was possible for him to absorb it, it was likely that it would greatly benefit his green heaven materialized dragon skill. At this point, Lin Dong could not help but feel rather excited. Without further ado, a thought flashed in his mind, and the devouring ancestral symbol wheezed out. Countless devouring threads of light wrapped around the purplish gold skin. This purplish gold skin was clearly not ordinary. Hence, there did not seem to be any effect in the beginning, even in the face of the devouring and refinement by the devouring ancestral symbol. However, Lin Dong did not feel anxious. Regardless of where this thing had come from, it was currently firmly under his control, and would not be able to create any trouble. That purplish gold skin finally trembled after the devouring power from the devouring ancestral symbol was gradually strengthened. Thin strips of purplish gold light peeled off, before they turned into strands of purplish gold energy that scattered apart. Lin Dong urged out his Yuan power and carefully wrapped the tiny purplish gold energy. The moment his Yuan power came into contact with the purplish gold chi, a roar that seemed to have originated from ancient times suddenly rumbled within Lin Dong's body. Bang! The Yuan power that had wrapped around the purplish gold energy was blasted apart almost instantly. Strands of purplish gold energy rose, and finally tunneled into the cracks between Lin Dong's meridians. After the purplish gold energy tunneled into Lin Dong's body, Lin Dong was a little stunned to find that the bones, muscles, meridians etc. within his body actually started to squirm at this moment, as purplish gold lines spread within his body. They appeared like many giant worms that had invaded his bones. A rather creepy sight. What a frightening desolation chi. Lin Dong violently inhaled a breath of cold air. His heart was overwhelmed with shock. The desolation chi contained in those threads of purplish gold energy had reached a frighteningly pure level. This thing was too much of a nourishment. It had even reached the point where Lin Dong was somewhat unable to bear despite the strength of his physical body. Lin Dong suddenly opened his tightly shut eyes. After which, he hurriedly lowered his head only to find many purplish gold lights wiggling under his skin, while his body had actually begun to slowly swell at this moment. Lin Dong was not only displeased by this enormous strength, but his expression had also ended up changing. The desolation chi within the purplish gold skin was too frightening. If it was allowed to merge into his physical body, it was likely that Lin Dong's body would explode into a bloody mist. It must not fuse into my body. Lin Dong clenched his teeth. A thought quickly passed through his mind, as he activated the green heaven materialized dragon skill. After which, he used the purplish gold chi to form green dragon light tattoos. Green light surged on Lin Dong's body. Only then did the excited purplish gold energy gradually stop. After which, it began to linger outside of Lin Dong's body, transforming into numerous green dragon tattoos as it shrunk. 12, 15, 18, 23. Green dragon tattoos appeared one after another. By the time the final bit was gone, there were already 23 green dragon light tattoos on his body. This number had actually swelled to more than double of what it was before. The corners of Lin Dong's mouth twitched after seeing this scene. He was really unable to imagine that the desolation chi in that thumb-sized purplish gold skin would actually be able to let him form 13 green dragon light tattoos. This was even more impressive than what he had obtained over the past 1 month of bitter training. However, there was a difference between the 13 green dragon light tattoos that had been created, and the 10 green dragon light tattoos that Lin Dong had created through bitter training. If those 10 green dragon light tattoos that Lin Dong had created through training were exhausted, he would be able to create more of them. However, if he was to use these 13 excess green dragon light tattoos, they would never return unless he obtained another purplish gold skin for him to refine and absorb. This was the difference between a consumable and a sustainable product. The main reason that such a difference was created was because this was the limit that Lin Dong's current physical body had reached. 10 green dragon light tattoos was already the maximum. If he wished to increase this upper limit, he would need to raise his strength. Nevertheless, Lin Dong was pleasantly surprised. These 13 excess green dragon light tattoos would become one of his trump cards. He believed that if he was to unleash all 23 green dragon light tattoos at the same time, the power would be enough to insta-kill any advanced profound life stage expert. Even those perfect profound life stage experts would not dare to confront it directly. I seem to have gained another trump card. Lin Dong's lips parted into a smile. Soon after, he took out clothes from his Qiankuan bag and put them on. As he clenched and unclenched his fist, his eyes looked towards the light membrane which led to the 8th story in a strange manner. Just what is the 8th story hiding? What is that purplish gold skin to actually contain such a frightening desolation chi? Lin Dong's eyes were burning as he looked at the light membrane and muttered to himself. It is the chaos skin of the Chaos Master. A raspy voice suddenly sounded from behind Lin Dong just as his words faded. Lin Dong's body stiffened immediately, and he quickly turned around. His eyes protruded slightly, as he saw a light figure slowly drifting out from the mysterious stone talisman. A light figure slowly drifted out from the mysterious stone talisman. Its appearance was blurry, and it was impossible to clearly see its features. However, the faint trace of life chi that was emitted allowed one to understand that this light figure seemed to possess life. You. Lin Dong was extremely astonished as he watched this scene. Immediately, his eyelids twitched as he said, "Stone talisman spirit. It should be the ancestor stone spirit." The light figure hovered above the stone talisman, as a raspy and calm voice was slowly emitted. The astonishment on Lin Dong's face gradually started to recede moments later. He curiously observed the light figure and said, "You have been restored. Only my spirit has been awoken. As for my power, not much of it has recovered." The ancestor stone spirit shook his head. Lin Dong could hear some regret within his words. There is a great amount of desolation chi within this chaos tower. You can use all of it to recover. Lin Dong suggested. It is useless. If I wish to recover some strength, I will need to absorb the 8 stories desolation chi. The ancestor stone spirit explained in an indifferent manner. 8th story? You should be able to enter, right? Lin Dong looked towards the path that led to the 8th story. Although he did not have the ability to enter, it should not be difficult for this ancestor stone to enter, given its unfathomable strength. I can enter, however, the desolation chi in that place is healing the Chaos Master. If I absorb it, it will be over for that fellow. The ancestor stone spirit said. Chaos Master? Lin Dong was startled. The ancestor stone spirit glanced at Lin Dong. Suddenly, he floated to the spot below the light membrane. With a wave of his sleeve, the light membrane gradually became transparent, while Lin Dong also curiously cast his gaze over. It was a sea of purplish gold light. The desolation chi contained within such purplish gold light was exactly the same as the thing that Lin Dong had absorbed earlier. This caused his scalp to involuntarily turn somewhat numb. Just a few strands of purplish gold desolation chi had nearly caused him to explode. Yet, the 8th story contained such a terrifying amount. Anyone who entered would likely be burst into a bloody mist in a few breaths' time. Lin Dong's eyes swept over the purplish gold sea. Quickly after, his gaze abruptly froze, as a chill rose from under his feet, and spread across his entire body. His line of sight was focused at the center of the purplish gold sea. A 10,000 feet large giant was quietly lying on the ground. The skin of this giant was purplish gold in color, and there were some mysterious spiral patterns on his skin. Although he seemed to be in a slumber at this moment, the space around him appeared to be in a distorted state. Lin Dong did not doubt that space itself would collapse if this giant got up. This giant was truly the exemplification of power. Lin Dong could not help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. The scene in front of him was likely the most shocking scene that he had seen over the years. Perhaps, this giant was the most terrifyingly powerful person that he had seen, and was even stronger than Qing Shi. Is this the Chaos Master? Lin Dong muttered to himself. His eyes contained a shock that could not be hidden. No one would have imagined that there was such a frightening expert hidden in the 8th story of the Chaos Tower. No wonder even the clan heads of the 5 great clans were unable to enter. That purplish gold skin you absorbed earlier was a flake of skin from the Chaos Master. The ancestor stone spirit explained. The corners of Lin Dong's mouth twitched involuntarily. It was merely a fingernail-sized piece of skin. Yet, it possessed such pure desolation chi. Just how terrifying was this Chaos Master? Back then, my master, the great symbol ancestor, had a total of 8 disciples. They are also called the 8 Great Masters. That little female friend of yours, whom you call Ying Huan Huan, is the reincarnation of the Ice Master. Her power is even greater than the Chaos Master. The ancestor stone spirit spoke in an indifferent manner. Lin Dong could sense a trace of approval in his tone when he mentioned the Ice Master. So terrifying. Lin Dong rubbed his nose. After having witnessed the aura of this Chaos Master, he was finally able to understand just how powerful these peak experts from the ancient times actually were. Lin Dong also had some complicated feelings towards Ying Huan Huan's reincarnator identity. Once she truly awakened, it was likely that the pretty and lively young lady with a black ponytail would reach a level that even he would have no hope of catching up to. Lin Dong did not want to see that day arrive. That stone coffin which I saw in the lava space back then, Lin Dong suddenly recalled the hidden mysterious space that was located deep underground on Mysterious Spirit Island. That is the Flame Master, the ancestor stone sighed. Back then, the world was faced with a great calamity. Master ignited his reincarnation to seal the crack between dimensions. However, there are still many powerful Yimos remaining on this plane. The 8 Great Masters had attempted to eliminate them. Although they ultimately resolved the trouble, they had also ended up paying a great price for it. Lin Dong silently nodded. That mysterious lava space was clearly suppressing something. It was likely that the Flame Master had also fell into a deep slumber like old man Fen Tien from Unique Devil region back then. They still have a chance to be reawakened, right? Lindong asked. Yes. The ancestor stone nodded and said, they were once the pinnacle experts of this world. All of them have broken through life and death, and achieved enlightenment in reincarnation. It is not easy to destroy them. However, it would require a long time for them to awaken. Lindong silently nodded. He had felt an indescribable danger ever since he became aware of the existence of those Yimo. Even someone as strong as the symbol ancestor back then could only ignite his reincarnation to seal the crack between the planes in the face of those creatures. If the latter were to make a comeback, who in this plane would be able to fight them? This Chaos Tower does not have the fluctuation of the Chaos ancestral symbol. It has likely also been lost. The ancestor stone scanned the area and commented. Chaos ancestral symbol. Lindong's eyes quickly lit up after hearing this name. The 8 great masters were once the owners of the 8 ancestral symbols. The Chaos Master possessed the Chaos ancestral symbol. The ancestor stone spoke in a faint voice. Does this mean that there was also a devouring master? Lindong could not resist asking. It was the first time that he had heard this. I? The ancestor stone nodded. His eyes seemed to be recalling a distant memory. Finally, he sighed and said, however, I do not know if he still exists in this world. Back then, the devouring master fought against 5 king-level Yimo alone. The number of Yimos that have died at his hands numbered in the hundreds of millions. The corners of Lindong's eyes twitched slightly after hearing this. He was aware that the Great Desolate Tablet was suppressing a king-level Yimo. Of course, he also understood just how powerful an Yimo of this level was. Yet, the Devouring Master was able to fight against 5 of them alone. Such strength was a little unbelievable. Is the king-level Yimo the strongest amongst those Yimo? The ancestor stone was quiet for a moment. Finally, he shook his head and replied, there is still the emperor level above the king level. A Yimo of that level can only be dealt with by master. Fortunately, a Yimo of this level will not be born so easily even within that Yimo tribe. Emperor level Yimo. Lindong was quietly speechless. Just the king level was already so frightening. Just how ferocious was that emperor level Yimo? Although I have currently awakened, you should pay attention not to casually use my power in the future. The fate of that celestial demon Martin friend of yours is a good example. The ancestor stone suddenly warned. Little Martin. Lindong was stunned. Soon after, his expression changed slightly. Little Martin had mentioned that he was surrounded and attacked soon after obtaining the ancestor stone. In the end, he had to self-destruct his physical body, and hid his demonic spirit inside the ancestor stone. Only then did he manage to survive. Who are those people? Lindong's eyes were a little dark and solemn as he asked. Yimo, ancestor stone muttered in a faint voice. Lindong's pupils suddenly contracted, as some alarm surged on his face. There are still some living Yimo in this world. Yes. The ancestor stone nodded and replied. There were far too many Yimo that had entered this plane back then. Although most of them had been eliminated, there were still quite a number of them who had hidden themselves. They will definitely gather together and think of a way to tear a crack between the planes. Lindong's expression was grave. He was aware that if a crack was opened again, this plane would be devastated by the Yimo. No one would be able to escape. Moreover, this plane does not lack powerful Yimo that have been suppressed without being completely destroyed. An example is the king-level Yimo under the Great Desolate Tablet. The other Yimo will definitely think of ways to rescue him, the ancestor stone said. Lindong nodded slightly. It seemed that the first thing he must do after returning to the Eastern Xian region was to help the Great Desolate Tablet completely kill that king-level Yimo. Otherwise, things would truly become troublesome if the latter managed to escape. Both the Great Desolate Tablet and I belong to the Master. Those Yimo are exceptionally sensitive to our auras. Hence, there is a good chance that you will be detected by them if you use my power. Moreover, with your current strength, forget about a king-level Yimo. Even an Yimo general will be able to kill you. The ancestor stone said. I know. Lindong nodded slowly. It seemed that he should properly hide the ancestor stone before he reach a certain level of strength. Currently, the ancestor stone might not be able to provide him with any clear help, but the former possessed an extremely rich experience and knowledge. Moreover, this was something that Lindong was lacking in. It was likely that he would be able to obtain great benefits from it in this area in the future. Lindong stretched his waist after thinking of this. He glanced at the light membrane which led into the 8th story. After which, he turned around and left. Since the ancestor stone had been awakened, there was no longer a need for him to continue staying in this place. After Lindong's departure, the Chaos Tower once again becomes silent. The giant body continued to quietly lie on the 8th story, appearing as though it had been there since time immemorial. This video will end here.